This is a man who never leaves his thermos cup. Even though he is over 50 years old, he can only work as a low-level worker in his father-in-law's factory. Every day, he repeats the trivial matters of the previous day step by step. There has been no ripples in his life. Until he was about to get up in the middle of the night to flush the toilet, he suddenly found two thieves breaking into his house. So he took out the golf club beside him and carefully prepared to call the police. But he didn't expect that soon. Hutch Alliance showed weakness and pointed to the rice plate beside him, claiming that this was all his cash at present. But this amount of money was far from enough for the thieves, so they took a fancy to Hutch's watch. During the tug-of-war, Hutch noticed the thief's tattoo. Unexpectedly at this time, the son suddenly appeared and secretly attacked one of the thieves. Hutch immediately stepped forward to help, but suddenly he noticed that the thief's gun had no bullets and let him go. The son had no choice but to do as he was told. The thief behind him gave him a dose of Chinese medicine. Seeing her husband so incompetent, the wife came out and begged the thief. The thief then took up his things and left cursing. After closing the door, Hutch wanted to pull up his son who had fallen to the ground, but his son opened the door directly. He felt that his father's behavior was simply lame. After receiving the alarm, the police rushed over. After listening to the family's statements, even the police began to mock him. What kind of man is he if he can't protect his family? His wife was disappointed with him. The neighbors also said that he was simply weak. No one could understand the depression in his heart. Only his daughter lay quietly beside him and comforted him softly. But the next day, suddenly he found that his favorite cat bracelet was also taken away by a thief. This made Hutch's suppressed emotions burst out instantly. Without saying a word, he slammed the door and left. He went to the nursing home where his father was, put on the jacket he wore when he was young, and took out the storage pistol and a few bullets, turned around and told his father that he had something to do. Seeing his son regain his youthful appearance, the old father understood. So Hutch went straight to the local tattoo shop, took out the money, and asked the boss if he had seen the same tattoo as the thief. But the boss didn't give him any face. Several strong men behind him surrounded him immediately. Only the old man next to him saw the trick from the tattoo on Hutch's wrist. "Thank you for your service, you two." Locked the door. In an instant, the tattoo shop owner was stunned. Obviously, the man in front of him was someone she couldn't afford to offend. So Hutch successfully got the address of the thief's home and appeared in the thief's home without anyone noticing. The thief was beaten with one punch and vomited blood. The thief's wife quickly took out the watch and returned it to Hutch, but she didn't know the whereabouts of the kitten bracelet. Hutch was so angry that he knocked him down and pulled the safety button and was ready to shoot. Suddenly, a baby cried. Hutch walked over and opened the door to check. Sure enough, he saw a baby lying there with an oxygen mask. This made him suddenly realize that this couple was just forced to die by life. So he moved his silhouette again and turned around and left without looking back. But he had nowhere to vent his anger. He could only hammer the wall madly. Then he got on the bus to go home. Who knew that a few drunk hooligans suddenly appeared? As soon as they got on the bus, they knocked the books out of the passengers' hands and then targeted the single beauty next to them. The girl was in danger tonight, but Hutch, who was sitting in the back seat, was very happy. There were a few people stabbing him. "Why are you still hammering the wall?" So he calmly walked through the gangsters, stopped the driver who was about to call the police, comforted him softly, and sent him off the car. Then he turned around and prepared to face his hunting moment. "What are you still doing here, old man?" grabbed Hutch's waist. Hutch, who was getting older, gradually began to lose strength and was soon thrown out by several people. The gangsters in the car were beaten to scream, and some were interrupted. Several of his front teeth were knocked out, but the fight didn't end there. Hutch got up again from the ground. Although he was in great pain, he still returned to the car despite the driver's obstruction. The gangsters were obviously frightened, but Hutch told the girl to hurry up. He got off the car and tied a dagger to his hand, then it towards the yellow-haired man. The fight ended. Hutch calmly got off the car and returned the phone to the driver. Then he limped back home in the driver's surprised eyes. He was very careful when he got home, but his wife still saw him. He was covered with wounds, but his wife was not angry. Instead, she gently bandaged his wounds and took away the pillow that had been placed between them for several years. This night was destined to be a sleepless night. The other gangsters were also sent to the hospital, but their identities were not simple. The yellow-haired one was the younger brother of a Russian gangster. After getting Hutch's bus card, the gangster boss immediately ordered a thorough investigation. The subordinate immediately contacted the Pentagon's love drama agent and quickly found out everything about Hutch. Not only did they find out his home address, but they also found out the room number of his father's nursing home. But when they found out Hutch's identity, the subordinate was shocked and immediately packed up his bags and quit. But the gangster boss didn't intend to give up. Little did he know that this would be the decision he would regret most in his life. The man was about to enjoy a loving dinner with his family when he suddenly discovered something strange. 3 cars turned off their lights as soon as they arrived at his door. With years of assassination experience, he immediately realized that the situation was not good. He didn't have time to explain and quickly asked his family to hide in the basement he had prepared long ago. At this time, the mercenaries in the car had already formed a formation outside and approached the house cautiously. The man immediately turned on the power switch. Seeing this, the mercenaries calmly turned on the flashlight and fired a shot. They broke the door lock and broke in by force and began to search every room. Little did they know that they had provoked a terrible instance. After dealing with 2 mercenaries, the man began to use the terrain advantage to shuttle back and forth in the dark and cleanly dealt with the next mercenary. He did not forget to wipe off the blood cocoon on the knife. The mercenary was obviously well-trained. After losing 3 teammates in succession, he was still able to remain calm in the face of danger. However, the gap in strength was too great. Even though the opponent had an absolute advantage in equipment, the man was still able to adapt to the situation. He could use any few things he picked up as weapons. He soon beat the mercenary without any resistance. Unfortunately, in the end, he was not paying attention and was successfully attacked from behind by the opponent. When he woke up again, he was already locked in the trunk. Hearing that there were only 3 mercenaries in the car, the man immediately dislocated his thumb and successfully got rid of the handcuffs. Then he found the fire extinguisher skillfully, kicked the back seat away, and started to spray the mercenaries in the front seat. The car, whose vision was blocked, lost control instantly, and soon after spinning a few times, it crashed on the side of the road. Then the man got out of the trunk. The 3 mercenaries could have survived, but they died one after another because they did not have the good habit of wearing seatbelts. Now the car has completely exploded. The man can only run home on foot and change into clean clothes. Then he led his family out of the basement. Looking at the mess in front of him and the dying mercenary lying on the ground, his wife and children were shocked. The son could not imagine that his father, who had always been weak and incompetent, would actually... Despite such a feat, Hutch, as a top killer, knew that the matter was far from over. So he asked his wife to take the children back to her parents' home, and then burned down his house to destroy the bodies while calling his father in the nursing home. Remind him to be careful of the crisis that may occur at any time. But the old man who heard this not only did not feel panic at all, but showed a weird smile. Soon 2 killers came over. Seeing that the old man was sleeping soundly, one of them immediately raised his pistol. Who knew that the next second, old man suddenly became angry. The loud noise scared the nursing home caregiver, but when he ran over and took a look, he found that the old man was just reading the war post. The old man pressed the remote control with one hand and held the killer who was struggling to death with the other hand. After the caregiver left, the killer also took his last breath. It turned out that the old man who looked frail was actually an FBI agent for 40 years. On the other hand, his son Hutch, who was once a top killer, also decided to start the offensive. I first used all my savings to buy the company where I work, and then used my lifelong learning to assemble a bunch of seemingly useless junk into deadly traps. After everything was ready, he broke into the gangster's Golden Valley and killed all the guards. Then he set fire to the tons of US dollars in it and burned them all. Then he went to the gangster's base alone and calmly sat at the table to taste steak. The gangster, who was having a great time, suddenly looked uglier than if he had eaten dog shit. How did this man get in? His subordinates immediately surrounded him. Seeing the opportunity, they pointed their pistols at him 360 degrees without blind spots. Hutch didn't feel panic at all. He just gently removed the food on the table. An anti-infantry broadsword mine appeared in front of everyone, and the shadow line happened to be... The gangster boss had no choice but to order his men to go out and pretend to be calm and sit down to negotiate with Hatch. But when Hatch took out a half-burned banknote, the gangster boss could no longer sit still. Then Hatch issued a warning that if you dare to harass his family again, the end will never be the same as now. Such a simple matter has been brought to this point. No one feels good. It is better to take a step back and cease fire. The previous grudges can be written off. Think it over, Al Benevolent. After saying that, Hutch calmly walked through the gangster's men while holding the mine, walked out of the nightclub, returned to the car, and waited silently. But the gangster refused to accept the toast and drank the penalty. Hutch was immediately happy. Now he couldn't blame him for not giving him a chance. Soon Hutch led the gangster to the factory where he set up an ambush. What he didn't expect was that his former partner had been waiting for a long time with a sniper rifle. What was even more exaggerated was that his 80-year-old father also showed up here. The sky fell. They were obviously staggering when they walked down the mountain, but they did a broken knife mine. The battle ended here. The gang members were completely wiped out. Hutch took his wife and bought a new house with a basement. Dad joined Hutch's former organization and went to the next stop with Xiao Fei. Although he knew it would be faster to fly there, but for the sake of Daddy's babies, they still think it's more comfortable to drive. Oh yeah. 3 of them successfully joined together. The gangster's men were all dead. Unfortunately, at this time, the 3 of them also used up all their bullets. The gangster began to shout loudly, claiming that he would make his family pay the price. But he didn't know that Hutch had a last trump card, which was didn't want to stay in the nursing home. He liked to help his son fight the bad guys with his gun. They were divided into 3 groups, and before the battle, although the gangsters had a large number of people, they couldn't stand up to the 3 experienced people. Not only did they hit the target with every bullet, but the traps set by their subordinates were also very simple, which could be hydraulic presses, with hand grenades or mouse racks with eggs. He even used an office stapler. He never thought that he could use it to beat bad guys one day. When the began, the gangsters were beaten one after another and lost their fighting power. The leader, the yellow-haired alliance, picked up Hutch's pistol and prepared to attack. Seeing this, Hutch was not in a hurry. He broke the steel pipe behind it. The gangsters laughed immediately. One of them walked up and punched Hatch in the face. However, this force was just right for Hatch because he wanted this feeling. Chen Feng's many years of battle memory was instantly awakened. At this time, Hatch was like a god of war. Facing the continuous critical strikes, he became more and more excited. In a few moves, he beat the gangsters and made them step on their feet. The last gangster finally couldn't stand it anymore and took